Morning.
Morning. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Here with David. I'm not actually Peter. Peter was supposed to be here, but he couldn't make it, so I'm taking his place. Hopefully, I'll do a fairly decent job in grilling.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah. So let's start.
Sure.
Before we dive into the creative, Coldwell Banker, you have lots of different key people that you're supposed to support. What's your strategy? How do you do that?
Yeah, so Coldwell Banker is a 117-year-old real estate brand, started in 1906, global, 100,000 agents across 41 countries. And one of them, a marketer's worst nightmare is on everything you do, you have two audiences. One is the consumer, the buyer or seller you're trying to reach, but then also the franchisee or the agents that are part of our network. So we're a franchise brand. So I have to figure out a way that the creative can speak to both the end user as well as our agents and brokers across the globe for them to want to also use and support the advertising message.
Cool.
Yes, it's a lot.
So you've done this unique thing of actually driving really, really powerful creative. That's one of my big beliefs, that creative really matters. So finding out that he's actually managed to create really great creative without spending a fortune, driving great ROI. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the KPIs we've presented with our agency of record, is that every year we rank #1 in our industry for advertising effectiveness, as according to iSpot TV and Metrics. In fact, over 10, 11 years ago, I heard about this company called Metrics, and that they were rating and measuring the effectiveness of creative. And so we were actually their first client, and we've been testing all our creative through that platform since. I'll tell you, it has been one of the most valuable things, not only to see what is working and not, what is appealing to consumers and isn't, but it's also helped from a purchasing decision as far as how much we need to spend, whether it be on music or celebrity talent or et cetera. But then it also gives me hard and fast numbers that I can go into the CFO, that I can go to the powers that be and showcase, hey, I can show you how this is working. And we've enjoyed the fact that we've had the most effective ad in advertising for the last dozen years. And I think we're going to show our dream campaign next, which is actually this year's campaign that ranks the #1 highest ad in the industry. So we can go ahead and roll that. And we can talk about that more.
Yeah.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be? And what would it be like? Would it be a place where you need a map to find your nearest neighbor? Or would it be the perfect place to find your crowd? Would it be a place that has 4 seasons? Or the kind of place where sandals are in style all year long? With today's home values, this is the perfect time to sell. Make those dreams real. And the best place to get started is at coldwellbanker.com, where we've built the ultimate real estate website. Here, you can get an instant estimate on your home, explore listings across America, compare cost of living city by city, and learn more about our revolutionary seller's assurance program. So it's really never been more true. Your dreams don't have to be just dreams. At coldwellbanker.com.
So that's like great.
Yeah.
How do you turn that into like something that works?
Yeah.
At 15.
So the interesting thing is the impetus for this ad was actually from a non-creative, non-marketing person within the organization. And I've got a reputation for, well, David, you just put puppies and babies on stuff and people love it. And that is the key to my success, is just whenever possible, throw a puppy or a baby in it. And they said, well, we want you to focus on something that is more transactional and more measurable. And I'd be like, well, I've got this ratings and I've got these surveys. I can show you what measure. They're like, yeah. And literally, this is the response. We don't believe that. I'm like, but it's facts, it's figures. I've got the data. They're like, it just doesn't feel right to us. So this was, hey, you need to drive people to the website and you need to focus on sellers versus buyers. And in real estate, 99.9% of all marketing is to buyers because it's easy. You just have to show them pretty pictures of a house for sale and you're like, hey, you want to buy this? and that's what draws people in. But getting people to move and leave the residence and where they currently have all their stuff and have existed, that was a real challenge. But that was a push to try and increase market share and also tap into a new audience of sellers. So that's what this ad did. And when you talk about the hook that TikTok just represented, the hook of this is really the first line in the ad is, if you could live anywhere, where would it be? Because when you ask that to someone, rarely do they say where they currently reside. It's always someplace else. And so coming out of the pandemic and saying like, well, how do we get people to move now that the world is open for so many and virtual work is an option? This dream is actually a reality. You want to move closer to the grandkids, you want a house on the lake, you want to live at the beach, you want to move to Costa Rica, whatever you want. That is now an opportunity for you. So we tapped into that. And what we found is that was the emotional hook that kept people compelled and then allowed us to also drive them to our site and engage with some of our unique tools like the Move Meter.
But there was also the body.
Yeah.
We had the Move Meter.
Exactly. And so trying to drive people not only to be compelled by creative, but then take action is really what stemmed from this. And you see that on the slide there, 80% reduction in ad spend. So we had originally had this creative with a popular song. And I had honestly never heard of the artist before and when it was presented to us, but it turns out it's a multi-million-dollar track that was available. And so we tested it on Ace with that song and then with some just art house creative that we had done. And we found that the creative from the art house with your just regular music scored at least 50 points higher, was more compelling, and it didn't distract people from the message that was in the ad. So that's some ways that we've been able to use the platform to make it more effective. But you asked me about how do you make this a 15? You know, grade 60, it's an anthemic spot, but 15 is really going to do the work for you. So we looked at this year, how do we take this idea of driving people to the Move Meter, marry it with the media that we're running on, but then also add another element to it. How can our network of 100,000 agents across the globe also customize it? So since we're running on a Thursday Night Football across Amazon Prime, we came up with this 15, which we'll roll the next video to show you how it's evolved.
Minneapolis and Philadelphia have great football teams, but which city would you rather move to? With the Coldwell Banker Move Meter, you can compare cost and quality of living for cities across America. Try the Move Meter, only at coldwellbanker.com and Coldwell Banker agent websites.
So really quick, that's the 15. And what we saw was this is the highest rated 15-second ad that we've ever done. And typically when you're rating ads, the 60 and the 30 perform well because you can tell the story and you get the full, you have more time to compel people. 15s are typically very low scoring and it's just like, yeah, whatever. Do you remember the one thing that's part of it? So this actually outscored some of our 30s from previous years and all the 30-second ads within our category this year as well. If you look at that little handy dandy chart there, when you see likability, watchability, and information, and those bars are all aligned on at the same level, that is unique. Because typically you either really like the ad and you're compelled with the watchability of it, or it's giving you information. So the marriage of those two things to us was what really showcased, okay, this is creative that can actually drive results and performance. And we've seen that so far. We've just ran on the last couple of Thursday Night Football games over the season. Minnesota and Philadelphia was the first one. It's running across social as well. And we saw something ridiculous, like a 900% increase in traffic to our Move Meter tool. In fact, I got an alert during Thursday Night Football last week that, oh my goodness, the site is down, what went wrong, blah, blah. And come to find out, we crashed the API because too many calls to serve up results. It's like, that's a problem I could deal with. I'll take that, right? It didn't work because too many people were wanting to use it. So that to me is showing that this is creative that can actually drive results.
Cool. So you've done all this work. You've turned it in. We were looking at this this graph. This tells you that it really held throughout the entire commercial, right?
Yeah. So it's looking at, and it's probably too hard to read, but it's looking at people who are going to buy or sell within 2 years, next 2 years, or currently looking. And what you want to see is that this line is basically flat the entire ad versus there's peaks and valleys. It means that as soon as they got the hook within those first 5 seconds, 2.5 seconds here, they maintained their interest throughout. So that shows that, okay, what is being said, I'm interested in, and now I'm going to stay through all the way to the end. So we decided to add like another element into this in that like not everyone's from Minnesota or Philadelphia, not everybody cares about those football teams, but that was what was running. So what if we could take our creative and allow our network to customize it for their local markets.
Yeah.
So maybe they care that Tampa Bay is playing Jacksonville this week. So through a custom video tool that we have, you can take our existing ad and just swap out the cities, and you can upload your own videos, still photos, et cetera, to show, hey, Tampa Bay and Jacksonville have great football teams, but which city would you rather move to? Visit the move meter at coldwellbankerdavidmarine.com. And that's specifically why we added at the end of our ad the call to action. Check out the move meter at coldwellbanker.com or Coldwell Banker agent websites, because we gave an embeddable widget of that tool that can then allow our agents to put it on their own local sites. So all of a sudden, now this national campaign that we know is persuasive, drives results, and works, and is compelling, can be taken and used specifically for a local market and drive to their own local sites. I've been at Coldwell Banker for 22 years, and my favorite comment when anyone complains about creative within the network is, well, you have a great ad, but that is not a California palm tree. It's a Florida palm tree. That's not an Arizona cactus, right? Like there's always reasons like this doesn't work in my market because there's a mountain in the background and I live in St. Louis. So this allows them to take down the barriers of that complaint and be able to say like, oh, I can now make this specific to my own. And we've seen over 7,000 versions of the Move Meter have been customized through our social media tool as well as our custom video tool.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's advertising that drives results. And it has helped me even this year as you head into budget season. I think I messaged Carolyn, and she's still here. It was a great presentation from work to open things up. Perfectly timed because I need that right as I go into budget planning season to go to my CFO. So I'll take some of those charts. But this type of data and results allows me to walk in and they say like, well, why are you spending all this money on this thing? That doesn't drive leads, right? That's kind of the big thing. Like, hey, you got to drive to a website, they got to fill out a form, and then we say that that's worth something. This shows me that through this creative and then through additional consumer surveys and studies that we're doing, that I've got advertising that drives results because people are 3.7 times more likely to work with Coldwell Banker after seeing our ad. And those that see our ad then rate Coldwell Banker #1 in trust, professionalism, best-in-class agents, and most likely to work with in the next purchase. And then on top of that, when I look at our media spend, where you take that compelling creative with our media spend through our market mix model measurement, we're able to see that every dollar we spend in media drives $10 in revenue. And to me, that is a bulletproof argument to go in. Now, someone could say, I just don't believe you. And you can't, it's not a faith-based organization, but in any case, you're going in well-equipped to be able to say, hey, this is not only really great and people are excited about it, but it's actually producing results. And the more arsenal that you have that as a marketer, as an advertiser, as someone who's the head of a brand, the better, because it ensures that you're holding yourself accountable and showing to others that you're also accountable for what you're doing as well.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you all. And if you click to the next slide,
Yeah.
make sure you download the full case study. There's a link here on
Very
the
good.
thing. Paul?
Thank you, Paul.
Super, thank you very much. Any questions from the floor?
No.
No?
Thank you.
Very clear.
Thank you.